Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the HerStory Online Summit, Day 6. The HerStory Online Summit is a platform that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women and men who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I am the founder and global curator of the HerStory Circle movement. And I'm really honored to be bringing with you today all the way from Melbourne, Australia. To begin with, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today. I want to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people who are joining us from around the world. Over the next few days, we'll dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of remarkable women and men. These are stories of courage, resilience, creativity, and leadership. Stories that remind us that when women rise, communities and nations rise with them. This summit is more than just a series of talks. It's a global circle, a space for inspiration, connection, and transformation. Together, we will share knowledge, ignite conversations, and plant seeds of change. So I invite you to go and grab a cup of coffee, settle in, open your heart, and allow yourself to be inspired by the incredible journeys that we will hear. This is Her Story because every woman's voice matters, and every story has got the power to change the world. So my first guest today is coming to us all the way from the United States. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Faith is the CEO of Aloe Vitas Consulting, where she helps nonprofits and small businesses to build capacity for change through strategy, funding, and leadership development. With over a decade experience in nonprofit leadership, grant strategy, and entrepreneurship, Faith is known for turning big ideas into actionable plans that drive lasting impact. She strives to bring partnership between soul and sustainability strategies to her clients. So I'm really excited to have you back on our stage, Faith. You are not unknown to the Her Story community. You have spoken at some of our events before, and you've spoken on our podcast. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Absolute pleasure. The stage is yours, Faith.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and share a little bit about my story today. I always like to start off saying that entrepreneurship was not the path that I first saw myself going into. I did grow up in an entrepreneurial household. So from a very early age, I knew what it was like to own a business and have that be the main source of income within a family. And I saw the benefits, the challenges, but also the lifestyle that it allowed my father as he was raising us as a single parent. As I went on into college and beyond, I knew I wanted to help people, but really didn't know what that looked like in its entirety. I would say that I had that one single vision of helping people, but the roadmap of which I was trying to lay the foundation of really wasn't clear. I didn't know how I wanted to do that. I didn't know who the people were that I was wanting to help, but that was the thing that got me up each and every day, was finding new ways and new spaces to be of service to others. While I was in college, I had the opportunity to get a little taste of what it was like to be able to build programs and continue on with that trajectory when I was in graduate school, getting a little taste of what it was like to be able to develop nonprofit programs. I saw the impact that community leaders coming together around a unified mission could bring, and thought I had found my calling to be able to bring new programs and initiatives to the world. Over the next 5 to 7 years, I would build up a variety of different programs and initiatives across the state of Texas. And throughout each of those initiatives, really brought in key partners, learned some valuable lessons about how to build sustainable organization, how to really get community buy-in, and also learned a lot about myself as a leader. And then fast forward a couple of years after doing that for a while and continuing to run a business on the side, I was faced with the decision of something new. My husband's career was going to bring us to another state, and I could choose to either start building something new within a new state within the US, or could take the opportunity to take a risk on myself. I had already had an LLC established. I already knew the foundation of what I was really trying to build, but really didn't know how to get there. And I had to really get to the granular details of what was the change that I was wanting to bring to the world. I always tell my clients, and even start when I'm having conversation with friends that are trying to look towards the future, of starting with that foundational element of why. Why do I want to make a difference? Why do I want to bring change to the world? And why do I want to start growing this business? Through the next couple months, was able to really nail down on some of those details. And thus, Alo Civitas Consulting was born. And here we are. We just celebrated our third birthday back in April. And now it's not only me, but I have a team of 3 staff that I get to support and work with me each and every day. And also this semester, very grateful to have 3 graduate and undergraduate level interns, allowing me to really pour into the next generation of leaders, as well as our clients, as we are building capacity for change in the world around us.
Thank you so much, Faith, for sharing your story with us this morning. It always intrigues me when I double back to you and I find out what you are up to, what you've been doing. And it's inspiring to see a young woman who is really following her path, following her calling. Not many people get to do that, but it seems to me like you really trust yourself in terms of where you're going, why you're doing what you're doing. And here we are back talking to you at the HerStory Online Summit. So, what can people expect when you are helping and supporting them?
That's a great question. One of the things that I think makes us a little bit unique in terms of business and nonprofit consulting is that I don't look to the future at the beginning. I actually look to some foundational elements first. I really try to understand for my clients what is their vision for their life and how does that come to life through their organization. What values do they have as a person and as a leader? And are they being lived out with how they're operating their organization? And what brings them joy and peace? And how do we build more of that into our daily lives, both personally and professionally? Once I'm able to help understand who they are as a person, it allows me to be able to kind of step in a little bit deeper and say, okay, it's not just that you want to make 6 figures with your business for money's sake, but how do we really tie it back to those deeper whys? How do we ensure that the way in which you're making this money and making this impact really fuels you and feeds your soul versus just checking a box?
So, what does the phrase grounding our work in our why mean to you? And how do you guide others to do the same?
Ooh, another good question. I love it. So I would say that grounding our work in our why is really allowing your driving force to drive all of the decisions that you make. So, for example, My driving force is building a better future than what we have today for my family, for my community, for my husband, for myself, for those that are going to come behind me. Is I want to leave each encounter that I have, ensuring that that person is better off because our paths intersected. And so that's my driving force. That is the why. That is the motivation behind getting up, even on the hard days. I actually did a newsletter that went out earlier today about that very same topic of how do you push yourself forward, even on the days when it's hard or the motivation is lacking. And what I continually come back to is the reasoning, the foundation, the why behind starting my company and continuing the work that I do.
So, how do you balance data driven strategy with empathy and human centered design in your consulting work?
I really believe they go hand in hand. Oftentimes, the data is telling us how what we're asking. So, if you're asking people the impact about the program or what they liked or didn't like, you're going to get the information that you're asking for. But I always believe that emotion and human centeredness has to couple with it. I'm sure a lot of people, when they think data driven decisions, can think of some kind of scientist who's taken all the emotions out of things and really just trying to push a decision forward based on the statistics. But to me, emotion and statistics go hand in hand because you have to think about the end user. Who's going to be impacted by what you're trying to put out there, whether it's a program, whether it's your business offering? What is the impact that you're trying to make? And then how do you ensure that the data is aligning with that impact? So, are you asking the right questions? Are you putting things out there the right way? Are you asking for feedback along the way? And are you ensuring that as you're collecting data, you're actually doing something about it to make the change that needs to happen?
Wow. Now, what's intriguing about your work is you use storytelling. What role does storytelling play in driving system change, particularly in early childhood development and wellness?
Stories are what we relate to, right? Like anytime I think of a news story or some capturing thing that you see on social media, you're not necessarily remembering the stats, the figures, or maybe even the person who is sharing it with you. What you're remembering is the way that that story made you feel. Emotions connect us to other people, right? And how we do that is through stories. It's how we experience the world around us and the people around us is through emotions and stories. And so, in the work that I've done in the early childhood systems building space, we really try to leverage storytelling both from the perspective of parents, because oftentimes these little ones can't really speak for themselves, right? But the parents who are raising them can, and the providers or the organizations that are working with these families. It's important for those that are making policies or systems level change understand how their end user is really going to be impacted. What does a policy or a new program look like to the parent who may be struggling and working three jobs to try to put food on the table? That's going to mean a lot more to you, or hopefully it does, than just seeing some model put into practice. A model that's put on, A plus B equals C doesn't have as much meaning as I can picture Susie, who's the single mom working three jobs to put food on the table for her child.
Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship and leadership. What challenges did you face transitioning from working within systems to launching your new consultancy practice? And how did you overcome them?
Oh man, I would say the first couple of months was probably the roughest. I tell people that that was the very last time, and hopefully last time, that I ever experienced burnout was in that transition from corporate world to full-time entrepreneurship. And the first reason why that was a difficult transition is number one, I didn't fully know how to operationalize my day. I didn't know how to structure my day in a way that was sustainable or successful for me because I was always working off of someone else's schedule. I knew when I had to be at meetings, I knew when I had project deadlines. And yeah, I had some flexibility in the meetings that I scheduled, but my work hours were from 8 to 5. Whereas when I transitioned to entrepreneurship, it was kind of that struggle of, well, I can sleep until 8 or 9 o'clock every day if I want to. I'll do that when I have time. But then also the personal internal struggle of how do I set myself apart as a leader, as a consultant, as a business owner? And honestly, for the first 6 months, really didn't know what space or place I was taking up. I was just kind of going with the flow and just doing what I thought I needed to do based on what I saw on social media or what people were telling me that meant well, but had no idea what I was trying to build. And it wasn't until I regrounded myself in my why, took a really deep look at how I wanted to structure my life and my business, that I was able to allow things to operate more with ease. Now I know my routine and my schedule to a place where I don't take meetings before certain times or after certain times unless it's a special case. I make sure to build in quiet time every day, workouts a couple days a week, time with friends and family, because that's what fills my cup personally to be able to give to other people.
Oh, I love that. Now, what are the leadership qualities that you believe are essential for women creating impact in the nonprofit and social good sectors today?
I think some of the key qualities, number one, is being willing to listen. I
Mm,
really think sometimes, and I struggle with this sometimes too, because I have so many ideas and I want to make sure I'm heard. But sometimes people need to be listened to. They don't want to be told what to do. They want someone who's going to walk alongside them and support them. And part of that is listening. One of the second things I would say is empathy and being in connection with your emotions. Again, people want to feel valued, they want to feel cared for, they want to feel heard. And you have to be emotionally sound and emotionally regulated as a leader to be able to recognize the emotions of other people and to have space within your own heart and mind to accept and work through those emotions with other people. And then I
mm,
would say the last thing is resiliency and grit. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. There are a lot of people who are going to tell you no. There are a lot of people who are going to tell you you should do something different. There are a lot of people who are going to question your decision, and you have to be firm in who you are and why you're doing what you do, or else it's really easy to look at maybe your bank account at the end of every day or an email that came in from a client and just be like, why did I do this? I'm just throwing it all away and going back to corporate America. I think if you don't have those three things, it's really hard to find the right people to work with, the right
mm.
support system, which we all need as leaders, and then also ensuring that you have the motivation to continue to push forward on the hard days.
Now, you work with diverse communities and providers across Texas. What have you learned about building trust across cultural and geographic divides?
I think it really goes back to some of the points from the last question is people want to be
Mm,
heard, they want to be listened to, and they want to feel respected. So I would say asking more questions than insight that you want to share. Asking people what they need, asking people how you can support them, what connections you can give, what would be meaningful to them. I jokingly say that be careful what you wish for with me because I'm going to ask a million questions, and it's not always from a place of like wanting to be nosy or anything, but it's really trying to understand who it is that I'm trying to connect with or serve. And so, first and foremost, is being okay asking a lot of questions. Next, I would say being okay admitting if you're wrong and apologizing if hurts have been done. And then third is trying to get representation within your initiatives and programs that reflects the community that you're trying to serve. Because not
mm,
everyone looks like me or is represented by the communities that I'm represented by. So if the only people that I have in my circle or that I'm getting insight from look like me and are my age and have my life experiences, then I'm only building a program that would benefit me, not something that would benefit vast majorities of people or that people with diverse backgrounds and experiences.
okay. So, what does inclusive development monitoring look like in practice? And how can providers ensure that families feel seen and respected in the process?
Inclusivity to me really boils down to respect, because
Mhm,
if people don't feel like you respect them as a person, as a parent, as a leader, as insert any title, they're not going to want to share vulnerable pieces of their life with you. And so from the perspective of a parent who may be grappling with a new diagnosis or trying to understand a little bit more about the situation that their child is in, that can be a really scary and vulnerable time. And so as a professional, as a leader, as a provider, it's important to create space where you're asking a lot of questions, you're giving space to actually have these people share their insights and their answers, and being okay with the uncomfortable. I think sometimes we as people are very quick to try to minimize emotion and feeling for our own discomfort, but sometimes life is uncomfortable and sometimes these things just have to be dealt with, right? So I think, these people just creating spaces for parents to ask questions, to have their voices heard, and to give them tools that are understanding of different cultural backgrounds and different languages. We, in a lot of the programs that I've worked with, utilize information from the Centers for Disease Control in the United States, which has a lot of information from culturally inclusive backgrounds and languages. And so I would just say for folks out there is find resources that are not just inclusive of one perspective, but also ensure people from different languages, cultures, and backgrounds are accepted as well.
That's beautiful. So, what are some of the early signs of burnout that often go unnoticed in change makers and caregivers? Let's talk a little bit about mental wellness and sustainability here.
First and foremost, our body will start showing us first. I always say it's the body and then it's the mind. Oftentimes our mind can play tricks on us and we can kind of push through things. But at least for me, what I've noticed is physical symptoms will start coming about. We just moved a couple of weeks ago and I was getting to the place where my body each and every day was just feeling tired. I was dragging. I was getting headaches more often. I was a little bit more irritable. I wasn't eating right. And those normally are first warning signs for me that something is in misalignment between my priorities and how I'm spending my time. So I would tell people, kind of take a look to an inventory every day. Are you feeling okay? Is your mental clarity okay? Are you emotionally okay? Are you snapping at people a little bit more than you normally do? Are you isolating from your friends and family? Oftentimes, our bodies and our mind try to give us small, subtle symptoms before it gets louder and louder and louder. If you don't listen to the more subtle symptoms, then you start getting things more like depressive episodes, potentially anxious episodes, full-blown panic attacks or meltdowns, trouble sleeping. So try to listen to those earlier signs where maybe it's just small things that are out of the ordinary for your emotions or your body, and see what might be causing that. Is it that you're not sleeping enough? Is it that you're not taking care of your body? Are you around emotionally draining people? Are you not pouring back into yourself? Are there projects or people that you're around that are really draining of your energy? And how can you find spaces and places, even if it's small, to do things that bring you joy, bring you gratitude, and then also bring you peace?
So, what self care strategies or routines keep you mentally and emotionally resilient as a leader and an advocate?
First and foremost is turning my emails and computer off at some point during the day. Whatever
Yeah.
your deadline or boundary is for yourself, mine's normally around 5 o'clock. Uh, Everything's going off. I'm not responding to things all hours of the day because then you feel like you're constantly on. So that was the first thing that I had to learn the hard way after not doing it for months and months and months is set boundaries. That email, if you do not respond to it right now and you wait till tomorrow, is probably not going to cost you much other than like maybe some mental peace and sanity for the time being. I also always make sure that I'm scheduling time in my calendar to pour back into my physical body. So I meal prep. I do not cook every single day. I love to cook and it brings me joy, but I cannot do it every single day. So I only cook 2 to 3 times a week and plan enough food for the entire week. I plan things to look forward to in my calendar, like at least 1 or 2 social gatherings a week. And they can be small. They don't have to be these big extravagant things, but time with my husband, time with my friends, time with my business besties, and making sure that I'm also having my day start off in a place of quiet. I always start my day with my devotional, my journaling, my gratitude for the day. And I give myself that 20, 25 minutes of uninterrupted while I'm sipping my coffee and, getting my day started. Because when I start my day grounded, I am so much more emotionally regulated throughout the rest of the day. Those are just a couple that come to mind.
I love it. Now let's talk about legacy, faith, and the future. How has your personal faith or sense of spirituality shared the way that you show up in your work and in your service?
I say that my faith is one of my driving forces. I do believe that's part of the reason why I'm so others focused and really want to be of service, is because of my faith and my spiritual backing. But I also believe that it really guides how I treat people and how I operate. So, for example, one of the pillars of my faith is trust and community. Those are two things that I'm going to make sure are built into how I operate as a person, right? If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I only want to work with people I trust and vice versa. I want to make sure that I'm being genuine and allow people the space and the place to show up as they truly are and build community that supports me and that I can support them as well. There are certain business practices or things that I will not do because they go against my morals. And that doesn't mean that they're bad for everyone. I always give the example of scare tactic marketing. That just doesn't feel right to me. It works for some people and good for them. But I don't want to play games with people. I want to build trust. I want to be genuine. I want them to trust me. And so I'm going to ensure that every way that I put myself out there, whether it's online or in person, people are getting the same faith and people know that this is someone that they can trust and who is guided by higher morals. It's not just about the money.
Oh, I love it. It's just absolutely awesome. So what is your long-term vision for your consulting company? And what kind of ripple effect do you hope it leaves behind?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately as we've been continuing to grow our team, both in terms of staff and our interns, is I really want our firm to eventually become a one-stop shop powerhouse for supporting small businesses and nonprofits. So I do see us continuing to grow the expertise in which we offer as long as it aligns with our mission, vision, and values, and continuing to expand the people that we bring on our team to bring those differences of expertise, background, experience, culture. And I really hope that one day we become a household name, because I know that the more people that we continue to impact, the better off that this world is going to be. And someday I see myself transitioning away from the day-to-day work and doing more in terms of book writing, speaking, and higher level consulting, but do find a lot of joy in the day-to-day work with my clients today.
Fantastic. My last question for you is, what advice would you give to the next generation of women who are stepping into leadership roles in education, wellness, and public service?
Find what makes you unique and stick with it. Everyone else is already taken, so just be you and show up as your bold, genuine, authentic self, because there are people out there that need to hear your story, that need to see you step into your greatness. And so don't be afraid, because there's people who need to hear from you.
Fantastic. Well, I tell you, Faith, it's always a pleasure to reconnect with you and find out what you're up to, what you've been doing. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with the community again today. And just to make you aware, our project for 2025 as a social impact movement is a woman who's based in in New South Wales, Australia. Her name is Bernice Williams, and we are doing a GoFundMe campaign for Bernice. Every year we pick one project that we can support. Focus is mostly on women, children, the elderly, the homeless, the disabled, and Bernice is our project of choice. So we're asking everybody who's listening to this podcast to please go online and contribute to this amazing woman's GoFundMe campaign. We try and see how we can uplift a woman who's in our community. So she has been a speaker at the Her Story podcast. We've played her video on day 1 and on day 2. And she is trying to raise money for her leukemia treatment. So both Bernice and her husband have had several rounds of medical support with cancer. Her husband has just been recovering from it. Now it's her. She's now found a donor who is going to give her the bone marrow that she needs for her transplant. So please go online, everybody. Support this amazing cause. We always pick one person that we can support every year. She's needing help with her bills, her medical bills. So thank you so much, Faith, for being online and sharing your story. Like I said, it's always a pleasure, and I look forward to reconnecting with you next year.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Wow, what a fantastic start to our morning. My next speaker is special. He is a man. Yes, a lot of you are thinking, why is Gertrude bringing men onto the platform? When I made the decision to introduce men on our platform, I got a lot of backlash from the women in our community. My belief is until we start bringing men to the table to share their stories, their insights, their knowledge, we are talking to ourselves. I am a mother of 3. I have 2 boys, and I want my sons to be in the rooms where women are discussing their issues and telling their stories so that they can be better to support their wives, their partners. So it gives me great pleasure to say that 25% of our speakers are male. So far, we've had 2 amazing men who've already spoken. And Nick is coming to us from the United States and is going to share his story. Nick is a storyteller, an entrepreneur, a community builder who's dedicated to amplifying the voices of unsung heroes behind live music and beyond. His journey began as an aspiring audio engineer, touring with top bands, but after facing career setbacks, embracing sobriety, and serving in the military, Nick discovered his true calling, and he's now using storytelling to inspire change. Through his media platform and networking app, he shares powerful, often overlooked stories that connect people worldwide, from Nashville to Uganda. Guided by faith and a commitment to purpose over profit, Nick believes that true success is not measured by money, but by impact. His mission is to help others uncover their why and live with authenticity, resilience, and service. So I had the pleasure to connect with Nick a little bit earlier today, and it absolutely gives me so much pleasure, Nick, to welcome you to our tribe. Welcome, 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 my brother. I feel there's so much that you and I are going to be doing going forwards. The stage is yours. You've got 15 minutes to tell us your story.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I'm so honored to be able to even just sit here and be able to talk with you and be able to have the moment to share my story. What a humbling experience it is, honestly. I was on my dream. My dream was to be on the biggest tour and to be in front of crowds and to be able to be running sound for the largest tours in the world. I spent my entire life working to get to that point, and I got to that point. I was there. I was doing it. It was my dream, and I got fired. It was the most pivotal thing, one of the most pivotal things I think has ever happened to me. Have you ever had the one thing you wanted most just ripped away from you? That's how I felt. It was, to be completely candid, that was the start of my sobriety. 14 years sober since then. There was so much pain. There was so much trying to find who I was. Who am I, when that was everything I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And that was the start of the journey of finding me. I spent so many years of trying to find this and trying to be on this story and trying to be on this journey, and I was there. So once that happened, it was a turning point for me to turn into something different. I looked at my life and thought, who am I? What is important to me? What are the things that bring me happiness? What are the things that bring me contentment? And I realized that alcohol wasn't one of those things. So I did something totally drastic and different, and I joined the military. I spent 9 years serving in the military. I went to also I'm now in Norfolk, Virginia, on an aircraft carrier with on doing navigation, driving aircraft carriers for 5 years. And I also realized in that time that I was a horrible leader. I thought I was a good leader being on tour, and it's tough because I mean it's not hard to find somebody else to get on tour when you can fire them and get somebody else. So if you can't produce, you get somebody else to be on tour. But now what do you do when you can't fire somebody? I learned how to develop people, and I learned how to put people in the right circumstances and to put them in the right spots. Then I got stationed. I was told I need to go to Millington, Tennessee. I didn't want to go to Millington, Tennessee. It was the last look. It was my last order. And as they told me, there's a reason they call them suggestions. You're going. Okay. I went to Millington, Tennessee and became an investigator. So now I'm tracking down military deserters and doing prisoner transports in, yes, the Navy headquarters in Millington, Tennessee. And you're not wrong. There is no body of water by there. Surprise, that's their headquarters. So I spent 4 years traveling around the globe. And that was my first time, honestly, being under a leadership team that was not good. I learned, again, a lot about myself, my breaking points. And that was the first time I really gave into screw it. It is what it is. I was told that I was not a good person. I was told I was not a leader, even though I worked so hard to get to the leadership position I was before in the Navy. Once again, I worked myself up there. I got awards. I was one of the highest ranking at my rank, and I moved to this new command, and now I'm being told I am a failure and I'm not one of those people again. And I found the end of myself. And I hate to say this, I came to the conclusion that maybe I am that person. I said, screw it. And that was hard. And then I overcame that. You're like, you know what? No, I'm not that. And I'm not the person of my surroundings, and these surroundings don't dictate who I am. And I'm going to dictate those. While I was there, I met my wife, my beautiful wife. And I wanted a proof of concept to get out of the military, because in the Navy, you got a sea and shore rotation, 5 years sea, 3 years shore. And I knew I was going to go back out the shore. So I wanted to start this proof of concept and get out of the military. I started a production company. And it did pretty good. I started running this company called BB Kings, and all of a sudden, the business owner is now my business partner. So I am now partnered with the owner of Beale Street Blues Company, and we're now on. I'm now running every single BB Kings, Lafayette, Edibinas, and we're on 10 cruise ships with Holland America, and it was just skyrocketing, and it was awesome. But I was justifying all of it for my wife and for my family. And come to find out, she just wanted me home and she wanted to have time with me. I then found some news that my business partner died. And that was tough. He had a $50 million business, and he died alone in a hospital on the phone with his accountant. And his family didn't even know he was there. And it was a very lonely man. And I realized I didn't want to be him. I don't think most people understand the sacrifice it takes to have a $50 million business, sacrificing yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, with your family. It took everything from him. And he left with none of that. That was another moment for me of realizing, what does contentment and what does happiness mean? And is it all this thing I'm running after and trying to be and trying to become? And I realized that that's not me. So I ended up taking that business and I hung it up. It was everything. And it's funny when you start a business, like you don't want to work a 9 to 5. So you start a business to not do that, but now you're working 24 hours. And it's just, I'm sure some of you guys completely understand that. So I hung that up. put my hat up and I went to church. I went to work at my church as the production director there. I loved working there. I learned a lot, and I ended up taking worked with this company called Triad Orbit. They make stands and accessories, and they make clamps. And I'm back in the music industry again. And I'm in recording studios, and I am back in it again. I'm starting to find myself again. I'm so thankful for it. And then while I'm there, I end up being at this place called Sweetwater. It's a massive music store. They have a ton of content creators there. One of the jobs they were hiring for while I was there was a content creator. And I was so excited, and I wanted to do that. There's another thing, I want to do this. And they said, you need to give us some audition tapes. And I started giving audition tapes for it. And they were bad. And when I tell you they were bad, they were not good. Sent them to them. He gave me some feedback, did it again, sent them to him, and they stopped communicating with me. And they stopped. I didn't hear much. And I flew over there, and I met with each person, and I sat them down and said, hey, just think of me as a young you. I'm willing to learn. I'm excited. I just give me the opportunity for it. And they didn't hear anything. So I decided to keep doing it, and I decided to do more of it. And I found out that I really enjoyed doing it. I love telling people stories. I love sharing what people are doing. The story of the unsung heroes was my mission. I really realized early on that I need to figure out what my why is. And then from there, it will dictate the rest of it. Because if you don't know what your why is, everything else is going to dictate your why, and money or stresses or anything else in life will be dictating that. I find that your why is so important. Who are you, and where are you going with it? I loved telling their stories, and I was so thankful. And it started turning into a business. I have a camera person that now comes with me. I have a whole entire team that comes with me. There is, it's turned into something so very thankful for. There's been so many lessons and so many failures throughout this, though. There's been so many times I've slammed my face into the wall and had to get up and try again that it's not been an easy path, but I'm thankful to be able to tell the stories. These people's stories are so important, not just for men and for women. I think I have 6 sisters of my own. I'm so very thankful for them. And I was raised by my mom, and women in the industry have such a special place in my heart. And part of it was I want to highlight their story as well. So I make it a focus to be able to tell their stories. At any time there's a female on tour, I want to take the time and talk with them and hear it and be able to tell their story from their unique point of view as well, because that is such a special and unique story. Your story is so special and so unique over everything else. One of the things is, like I said, is that why. Figure out your why. And I think the rest will fall into place with that. Yeah. Failures will happen a lot. Failures have happened a lot for me. Even with this social media aspect, there's been some times that there's been some tough lessons learned. It's been tough to be in the forefront of people and in their faces. And there's this insecurity of me that I want people to like me. I want people to, like what I do, and I care a lot. I'm very passionate about what I do. And that's tough when you put yourself out there and you put yourself vulnerable. I think people only see the choices you make, and they don't see the decisions you had to make to be able to make those choices as well. So my entire mission now is to be able to help, and the people who fed into me and gave me advice in this, I want to give those advices out. So if there's anybody anywhere that wants any advice with this, the only reason I found success is because I had those people in front of me. So I found some decent success on YouTube. I found some decent success on Instagram. I found some decent success throughout this entire social media. And what I wanted to do was tell those stories, but also network people. Part of figuring out your why and figure out who you are is I figured out that more than me wanting to be a sound engineer is that I love networking people. I love connecting people. Once I found that out, the rest was able to line up as well. So one of the things I did is I created an app for people to network and to be able to connect. I didn't want people to be charged to be able to post for jobs or to ask questions. So now there's a free app people can go, and there's a spot for Ask a Pro, so they can go and ask these people and these engineers and these techs and these band members that they've never been able to ask before. They can go there and ask those questions. They can post jobs for free. They can request for jobs. And they can all network together. So my heart is to be able to share, to be able to network. So if there's anybody out there that would love to be able to connect or be able to network, I'm here. I would love to hear and be able to help give advice for any of that. So I'm not sure if I'm quite there with time yet, but that's kind of my story. Forgive my splattering all around. This is one of the first times of me getting up and speaking like this. So thank you for your patience with me. And I love what you're doing, and I really believe in your vision, Gertrude. So thank you for having me here. And if there's anything I can do to be of help or blessing to you or to listeners, I am an open book.
Nick, I think when we met, I told you that when I wake up every day, and my day normally starts at 4:00 in the morning here in Australia, I put out a prayer that I meet the right people. What I'm trying to do with the Her Story platform is to connect with go-givers and not go-getters. And what you've done with your life is incredible. You really found your why, which is an unusual thing for most successful people. People forget the reason why they're in business, the reason why they're making money, but they also forget the legacy that they want to leave behind. So let's start and unpack your story from the beginning. Can you take us back to that moment when you were an audio engineer touring with all of these big bands? What did that dream mean to you at that time?
It meant everything for me, honestly. That was, I'm a very goal-oriented person and very driven. I think that's why I found success in the Navy, is because you do A, B equals C, 1 + 1 = 2 for it. So to have that set as everything you wanted to do and to get there, especially at the beginning of that, and the excitement and the energy of just being able to have that and just being right. You feel like you're invincible. Like the world is your oyster. You could take over anything and do everything. But that was my identity. That's who I was. That's who I was going to be, that person.
And then you lost it all. You got fired. How did that setback shape the direction of your life?
That was the biggest pivotal point. One of the biggest pivotal points of my life. It was something that made me rethink who I am as a person, who I am spiritually. It made me focus on my faith more, my relationship with God more, and realizing that I don't need other things to be able to make me feel like another person, be it substances, be it drinking, be it whatever it is to fill that hole and that emptiness inside. And I was going to other things to be able to fill that. It was a lot. It was a very, what do you do when you can't do your dream? But then I also looked at the people that are in the industry at the time too. They were in their late 40s. They were divorced. They had multiple kids from different people, substance abuse people. I was like, maybe that's not for me. Yeah. And there's this Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs. Do you know who he is?
Yes.
He talks about this passion versus opportunity thing. And I was so focused on my passion that I missed these opportunities, that those opportunities can turn into a passion. I really, really believe in that now.
I love it. Now, sobriety became a turning point for you. What was the hardest part of committing to that journey, and what was the most rewarding?
Good question. The hardest part was probably the beginning of losing friends and the things I thought I had to do to be able to, like, I thought I had to have a smoke in order to calm down. I thought I needed to go out and drink, or I thought I needed to be able to have a drink to be able to relax and have fun. And those were all lies. I didn't need that. I will say, separating myself out of that situation and going into a complete different situation, I also realized a lot of my friends were there for that situation. They were there for the fun times and the drinking. And I really believe who and what you hang out with is who and what you become. If that's who you're around with all the time, and that's who I was out and around with all the time, that's who I became. So separating myself from that. And honestly, that was one of the best decisions. Second to accepting God in my life, that was one of the best decisions I think I have ever made.
I love it. Now, you went into the military. What were the biggest lessons that you learned in the military about true leadership?
Good question. I was a bad leader. I realized I was a really bad leader. I also realized I thought everybody was a leader. Everybody's not a leader. Some people are worker bees and they're fine with being worker bees. There's no need to force them into that leadership position. I took a lot of what I learned in the military and applied it into my real world afterwards, into my business. And all I had to do was give somebody clear expectations, give them accountability, praise publicly, criticize privately. If there's a mistake, take them privately and do debrief with them. And I find that most people, that they want to do well and they want the freedom to be able to do well. Don't get me wrong, there's people that are outliers with all that, but let them know this is what I want. Here's the freedom to do it. I'm going to back you for that. And also putting the right person in the right spot as well. And looking at people's personalities is also super important. Figure out who the leaders are, figure out who the worker bees are, but figure out, what's the best position for them as well as a whole. Yeah, I was not a good leader. I was very good at dictating some stuff. And if you don't perform, get out.
That's it, yeah.
But how do you get people to follow you when times are rough?
That's the nuts and cracks of it. Man, now faith, purpose, and values. You often talk about finding your why. How do you personally define that? And what is your why today?
I had a mentor of mine when I was looking at doing this production stuff. He said, what do you feel like God's gifted you in? And he said, outside of production, because I gave him all these production answers and all this work answers and everything I've equipped to do. He's like, no, outside of that. Yeah. And that screwed with me. It took me 3 days of thinking, like, who am I besides what I do? Because what I do is who I am. How could that be? And I really had to think on that. Take my job away, take all the work away. Yeah. At the core of it, what are you passionate about? What is your superpower and what have you been gifted with? Truly, I think everybody's been gifted with something, and take a moment and think on that and reflect on that and sit in it, like really sit in it. It may not come instantaneously, but for me, it took me days and days and days of having to think that. And they're like, you know what? I love people. I love networking people. I love helping people. I love being able to connect person with here and be able to take the people who are lesser and help build them up and to help build value. And my mom would tell these stories of, do you remember those Save the Children commercials back in the day with the kids? She would say that I would cry at those because the kids needed help. Oh, and that was something that was built in me. And that's not something that's to be ashamed of or like an emotional side. I mean, that's just part of who I am and part of what I love to do. So when I figured that out, it was easy to go from where am I at, what am I doing, to woof. But also my narrow focus of just doing this audio job, that also opened up. Yeah. That passion versus opportunity thing that kind of comes into play as well. Now there's all these other opportunities that fall into networking and connecting and helping give voices to people. That can apply everywhere else as well now. So that was a huge moment for me.
It's interesting that you mentioned your childhood experience seeing those Save the Children things. My grandmother used to say that every child is born with their hands clutched. That we come into this world with our gifts and we're holding them. And some people unravel their hands and release that gift to the world. Others go to their graves clutching on to the gift. Now, if you can go back to the things that you did intuitively as a child, those are the gifts that you are supposed to give to the world. I can see you being a little boy who was very empathetic. you grew up in a family where your parents were missionaries. You saw them doing the work and making a difference in other people's lives. I was one of those little kids who was yakking and talking all the time. I was punished for speaking, Nick. I would be at the back of the class, cracking jokes,
Me
being
too.
disruptive. But I get paid to speak
Yeah.
now. This is what we do every single
Yeah.
day. And like you, I love people. I love connecting. I will speak to 10 to 15 different people from all over the world every single day. And it feels like the air that I breathe, right?
Yeah.
So you've just given everybody a gift here that if you are trying to find your why, sit with it. Remember, what did I love to do before life programmed me to be an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever your job description is? It's what did you do intuitively? And your why lies in those intuitive gifts, the things you do without thinking. And then you turn that into your passion and you go out into the world like you've done and you change the world. So, what fascinated me most about you, Nick, is you and I have a passion for impact and storytelling. What inspired you to start telling the stories of the unsung heroes in the live music world? Where did that come from?
My past and being through it and seeing the complications, seeing the struggles, going through it and failing catastrophically and falling victim to some things that a lot of people fall victim to. I wanted to take down the curtain and open up into mental health, into what does it mean to really be on the road. And let's give a realistic view of what this is like. Most people go to shows and they see the concert and they see all this awesomeness, but they don't realize the sacrifices that are made on the other side to be able to make this amazing for people. And honestly, that hour and a half is such a small part of your day. There's the other 23 and a half or 22 and a half hours of that is so much important as well. And these people that are, it's almost like being in the military as well, being on tour, almost these deployments where you're going out and having to be away from your family and be away from your friends. But part of that was like, let's be open and honest here about this. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not be okay as well.
Yeah.
And it may not be for everybody, but within networking and talking with people and sharing stories, this world recently has tried to divide us so much. And if you go out and talk to people, you'll find you have more in common with people than you think. They want us to be separate.
Yeah.
Our strength is in unity and our stories together. Your background, Gertrude, is so much different than mine, but you bring so much wisdom based upon where you're from, your ethnicity, your everything, your age. You have so much more wisdom, and then be able to share those stories, that is so powerful. So I wanted to be able to share that from people all over the spectrum with that, and to be able to give voice to people who don't have a voice.
We never get seen. They're in the background of all of these amazing shows. So how do you have a favorite story from your interviews?
I do.
One that stays with you and has reaffirmed why you do what you do?
The guy who fired me, his name is
Okay.
Mike Mahar. He runs sound for a band called Hailstorm.
Okay.
That moment being fired was such a dark moment that hung over my head and defined me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got invited to go. One of my buddies was on tour with me when I got fired, and he invited me to a show. And that band was going to be there for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so nervous because that for many, many years, for 9+ years was, oh my gosh, I was the guy that ruined the show, that wasn't able to do this, and that they fired for it. And I went to the show being nervous. I brought my wife with me, and I was the drum tech and monitor engineer for it. So I controlled the sound for the band, and I saw the drummer, and I walked backstage, saw him, my heart sunk. He saw me and he opened his arms and gave me a hug.
Oh.
And I realized that nobody really thinks about you as much as you think about yourself. And those moments don't need to define you. So I ended up reaching out to Mike, and I did an interview with him. And we were able to do an interview on camera telling the story of what happened. And he's also sober now too. We're both sober. And that was the moment I got to say that, hey, these moments don't define you. You can overcome those and be a better person, things can come full circle for you. Don't let those be who you are, because you're not that at all. So
And
that for me
sometimes
was a big
things are
moment.
happening for you and not against you. Because that was a
100%.
major turning point for you, and the trajectory of your life changed.
It
That
wasn't my
is,
biggest video, but it was one for me that was like, you know what? In that moment though, being fired, I never would have thought that I would be sitting there again. That was the end of the world.
I love it. Now, you told me that someone once told you that after watching your video, they moved to Nashville to pursue their dream. How did that moment affect you personally? Tell us about that story.
So if I'm totally candid, I've got a little bit of imposter syndrome with this. Uh, I have a hard time with this, and I forget that people watch this, and I've
Yes.
had people that come up to me and tell me that how much it's impacted me. And I see it here and there. People will message me on Instagram or message me on Facebook or on YouTube or try to reach out, and it's kind of cool. But to have, I was doing a panel, and I brought some other big front of house engineers, and there's somebody that came up to me and said that. And he looked at me, shook my hand, and said, "Thank you." No, I mean, I said, "Yeah, of course, thank you, of course." And I keep going to the next thing. No, thank you, because of what you did. Me and my wife thought about it. We moved all the way to Nashville to pursue my dream, and I'm in this industry because of what you've done. And that was a moment of, oh my gosh, people watch this and actually listen, which also gave some seriousness behind what I do as
Yeah.
well. That was one of the top moments of my life, honestly. And to keep getting stories from people all over, people from Africa reaching out, from Uganda, from Brazil, from, it's just,
Love it. The ripple
me?
effect.
I'm an idiot.
I know, right? That is just so cool. Absolutely awesome. So I've got two more questions to ask you before I let you go, Nick. You've built a networking app and a storytelling platform. How do you see technology helping communities grow in authentic ways?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of areas I think it's going. I think we've come such a long ways as well. I remember back when the people before me were on tour, they had to, if they were going to talk to their wives and they're in Europe, they had to get a bunch of quarters and get quarters together and put them in there and get a payphone and be able to call people and call their spouses. But now we have it at our fingertips to be able to
Amazing.
call people. There is a blessing and a curse with that too. Our voice can be used as good, but also, I'm sure you've never seen anything bad on social media before, but there's so much stuff that could be set as bad. But to be
Yeah.
able to find people that you can help and that you can give a voice to, like I've tried to do, but with this app, it is something that I wanted to be able to have people like-minded to be able to get help, to be able to ask people they can reach out to, but to also to take away the barriers of these paywalls of like, you got to pay to be able to, no, well, why? Let's just offer it. Let's give people help and give people advice with it. I even have one on there called Faith on Tour, where people can talk about their faith and struggles that they're going through. I think there's been both sides of the coin, though. I think there's been, with hyper focused groups, can get people that are hyper focused and maybe some wrong ways. But I think there's also could be used as good as well. And I'm excited to see more where this goes, especially with YouTube and social media and Instagram and all these groups out there. There's a lot of stuff and there's a lot of things available to connect with people. I mean, what was the rule separation? It was like 7 degrees back
Yeah.
before. Now it's what, 1 degree separation
It's
now.
crazy.
And I mean, even with the news, you can see major news sources are now coming down to not being as massive anymore because, these stories told firsthand from people.
Yeah. Everybody who has a phone is a reporter. News goes out minute by minute.
Yeah.
Okay. My last two questions are a bit futuristic and thought experiments. In the first one, I want to teleport you back to that young man who was in the music industry, doing his thing, not quite doing well, struggling. Just in case there is a young musician who's listening to us right now, if you could go back and give him 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
Whoa. Good question. 3 nuggets of wisdom for that. Back to that little self. It's okay to be you. Moments don't define you. Success in career doesn't define you. Be true to yourself. I keep going back to this why. What is your why? I guess it's kind of hard to tell as a kid what is your why. But I think the number one thing, honestly, always pray. Always be praying. There's a God out there who loves you, who cares about you a lot. Nothing here matters.
Absolutely beautiful. Last question. I'm teleporting you into the future this time. And we are going to go and sit with a 90-year-old you. And he's sitting in his rocking chair. Maybe he's at a rock concert. Who knows? With science and technology and your personality, you'll be dancing somewhere. We could teleport into the future to meet this wise man who has led you up until this point. What will you say to him when you finally meet him?
That just gave me goosebumps. Oh my goodness, such a good question. Oh my Lord. That's one of the best questions I think I've been asked. What did I tell him? I gotta think about that. I'm so sorry. I wish I had one right out of the gate. There's so many things, so many questions I would love to.
Let me tell you why I ask the question. Maybe this will help you.
Yeah.
I have a game that I play with the energy of who I am becoming. I've met this wise woman. I've tuned into her energy. I know why she's on the planet. I know the game she's playing. I know the difference she's going to make in her lifetime. So when I get stuck sometimes and I'm struggling with figuring out what my next step is, I go into my meditation and prayer at night and I ask her, so what is the next step? And I sleep on that. And I'll wake up in the morning, I'm in the shower, and I have those light bulb moments, and I know exactly how to execute the next step. Or I talk to people that I meet during the day, during the week, and I tell them what I'm struggling with, and they each come in with pieces to this puzzle. And by the end of the week, I've got the solution. So what I'm trying to get to here is that we have all the knowledge we need to create the lives we want. And it's that little voice, those promptings that we get when we're in silence that we tune into, that we follow. You followed your promptings. You left a very successful music career when you saw that things were not going right. You made a decision to change it completely, to be with your family. You have been prompted by that wise man, that 90-year-old, and all I want to know is, what will you say to him when you finally meet him?
Did I make you proud? Probably the question. Did I make you proud? I want to be somebody. Well, I was going to get emotional with that. I want to be somebody that I'll be proud to be later on. That hopefully I didn't focus on the money or the notoriety. Hopefully I focused on the things that mattered the most. My wife and having a family. None of this matters. At the end of the day, I want to know, did I focus on the right things, and did I make that person proud? Wow, I'm getting emotional from that. Oh my goodness.
I love it. I love it.
Wow.
I'm just wanting you to get in touch with him, Nick, because we all are. It's a fascinating way to live. I tell you, I struggle sometimes. I wonder why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not making any money. And she tells me, your job is to curate these stories. Just keep showing up no matter how hard it gets. So 4:00 every morning, I am online, like I told you, talking to people. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm still sharing with people so I can get the pieces to this puzzle connected. And I think you're one of my pieces. So you and I need to continue this conversation.
I haven't gotten emotional like this in probably 10 years that like that got to me. That's
fantastic.
cool.
Nick, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, for sharing your amazing story. You know, we need inspiration. It's when we share our stories that we make a difference in the world, showing that we are more the same than we are different. I love the work that you're doing. I just want to put a plug in here before I let you go to all of our community. So the Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're not just a speaking platform to share stories. We are a social impact movement that tries to make a difference and leave this planet a better place than we find it. And every time we have an online summit, we look for someone that we can support, somebody who's in our community. This year, we are fundraising for this amazing woman and her family. Bernice Williams is based in New South Wales, Australia. She and her husband have gone through several rounds of cancer. She's now fighting with leukemia. Fortunately, she just got a donor last week. And because she's gone through several rounds of chemo, the healthcare system is no longer supporting her. So her family has to raise $20,000. Please go onto her GoFundMe page, contribute whatever you can. It can be $1, $2. Every single cent makes a difference. Nick, I'm going to put this in the private chat for you as well.
Thank you.
Anything you can do, share it in your community. Let's help her raise the $20,000 that she needs to restore her health. And if you want to listen to her story, I did interview her the other day on the very first day that we started. Go back onto our YouTube channel and will send me a message and I will send you the link. But Nick, I will release you now. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your incredible story with our community today.
Thank you for your time. It's an honor to be here.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. I'll be back again in the evening from 4 o'clock Melbourne, Australia time with our Europe and UK guests. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Nick, don't go away.